My buddy Bill, who was flying the plane indoors for me, you noticed we had a little trouble flying it. And partly it's too fast for a small indoor area. But also partly we didn't understand how to operate the radio correctly to switch from the 6G mode to the 3D mode. So once you turn on the transmitter, by default it starts out in 6G mode. Now, and there's no indication about which of the two modes you're in. It may be hard to see. I know if I move the throttle a little bit, the light will come on. That's hard to read, but when it goes out, you will notice here it also starts in low rates. Now, to go to high rates, you push the throttle stick down, and it makes that double beep, and you can see there, maybe, it switched to high rates. Now, what we were doing to switch to 3D mode, looked at the manual. By the way, and the manual has a couple of mistakes. One of them is about changing rates. It calls it rudder instead of rates. Okay, so on the 3D mode, you're supposed to push down the aileron stick. Now, what we were doing to try to switch from 6G to 3D mode is we'd push it down. Now listen to the beep. And it turned out we were holding it too long. If you hold it down, it makes that single beep and then turns off, and we thought that's what you're supposed to do. That's not what you're supposed to do. What you're supposed to do is get this noise. You push it down less than a second. Nope, I still didn't get it. That's the noise you want. I'll do that again. So once you get that noise, you switch from either 6G mode to 3D mode or 3D mode back to 6G mode. Okay, let me show you a couple of other things we ran into. They're a little bit strange. So I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to plug in the battery on the airplane. So first I'm going to turn it back on. Now the reason I'm doing this is because I had messed with the throttle and I want to show you something. So let's turn it on. Okay. And then we're going to plug in the battery. And it makes a noise. Now, what I want to show you is that when you first plug it in, it is not in any stabilized mode to start with. Now, you'll see what I mean in just a minute. So, it's not stabilized, so the surfaces don't do anything. The other thing, if you notice, if I move the ailerons, they move immediately back. If I move the elevator, moves immediately back, and there's no stabilization. Also notice if I can do it without moving the... Notice there's a little bit of rudder mixed into the ailerons, okay? Now that's the default, no stabilization. What changes when you start to fly and you start the throttle a little bit, okay, that puts you in 6G mode. Now notice in 6G mode, you've got stabilization. You've got stabilization on the elevator, and on the rudder, it's harder to see because it only corrects for a moment, okay. And another thing to notice here, on 6G mode, when I give aileron, I've still got that rudder mixed in, okay? But there's one other strange thing on 6G mode. When I give it elevator, watch what the elevator does. If you give up elevator and immediately release, it takes its time coming back to level. Now, we thought that was not right, and we're still not convinced that it's a good thing. I think the reason HK did that is the 6G mode is probably for beginners, and so they want, when the person tries to take off, they'll take off and then immediately let go of the rudder, the elevator, and they'll want it to just gradually level out. After that, the stabilization takes over. Okay, see, if I point the nose down, the elevator goes up. Okay. Now, I'm not going to show you what it does on different rates because there's not a lot of difference. It does like you expect. Low rates, high rates moves the surfaces a little bit more. But I do want to show you 3D mode. So I'm going to click the right stick to get that beep I was talking about. Nope, pushed it too long. There we go. So now we are in 3D mode. Now 3D mode still gives you stabilization, okay? But you don't have, like when I operate the ailerons, I'm not restricted in how far I move them, and in 3D mode I don't get rudder mixed in. Also, in 3D mode, when I give up elevator, it immediately goes back down. Okay? So those are the main differences. No mixing on the ailerons and rudder, and you don't get that weird behavior on the elevator that you get in 6G. Put it back to 6G mode, and I get the weird behavior on the elevator again, and I get mix in the rudder. It took a long time to figure out what it was supposed to do. In fact, I thought there was something wrong with the gyro controller in this, and so I wrote Banggood, and I actually had them send me another one. It wasn't until I got here that I figured out, oh, well, that's the way it's supposed to be. Anyway, we're going to get out this afternoon and put it through its paces. Bill's going to fly it. He's a competition aerobatics pilot, so hopefully we'll see some good stuff. Thanks for watching.